Museum, and we also had the
Alumni Association of the
Naval
U.S. Naval Academy.
Also co-sponsored this program tonight, so I wanted to thank everybody. And I know Ted will always plug the Tri-State Warbird Museum, but you need to get out and look at that. So without further ado, here is Tony Gadaleta, and we're going to start the program, so enjoy. Thanks, everybody.
What a privilege to be here tonight, especially looking out to see so many heroes from World War II that I've met at the Tri-State Warbirds Museum, a wonderful event there in April of 2006 or 2007. Why are we here? I'm going to talk a little bit about the greatest battle in naval history, and someone who was not an eyewitness, but a participant, a warrior in that battle. That'll be Ted. But before we get started, turn it on. A little bit of an orientation. We have the west coast of the United States, Alaska, Japan, and right here, the Philippines. Just so we have a context geographically about what we'll be speaking about. Many of you have seen the picture on the left, General Douglas MacArthur wading ashore at Leyte Gulf on October 20th, 1944. This was an especially poignant day for General MacArthur because in March of 1942, he left the Philippines under the cover of night aboard a PT boat under the orders of President Roosevelt. He wanted to stay, but he was ordered to leave the Philippines. And here, 3.5 years later, can you all hear me? Am I speaking?
A little bit louder there, if you can.
From March of 1942 to October of 1944, General MacArthur is getting his redemption. He's now commander of the Southern Force retaking the Philippines. The gentleman on the right is Admiral Chester Nimitz, a boy who grew up in the Midwest, and five-star Navy admiral who is commanding the other major force coming together at the Philippines as part of our effort in World War II. So let's talk a little bit about where we are, October of 1944. The green lines here represent the northern forces under the command of Admiral Nimitz during the island hopping campaign. The red line represents the forces under General MacArthur that were coming together at Leyte Gulf. October 20th, 1944, MacArthur's landing force came ashore and there were tens of thousands of American soldiers already on the beach at Leyte Gulf. Things were going pretty well. There were many battles that led up to that point. From the low point in March of 1944, we had lost much of the American fleet on December 7th, 1941. We had lost the Philippines. Now we're clawing our way back. In May of 1942, the American Navy halted the southward expansion of the Japanese Empire at the Battle of the Coral Sea. Especially meaningful to me having served on USS Coral Sea, named for that battle. In June of 1944, the American Navy defeated much of the Japanese Navy in the Battle of Midway. We fought our way back, and here we are in October of 1944. The end of the war probably was in sight. The Japanese Navy had one last surprise up their sleeve. The last surprise was to sortie their entire battle fleet and they wanted to defeat the American forces ashore at Leyte Gulf. The plan almost worked, and here's the outline of the plan.
There were three forces. Under Admiral Ozawa, the northern force was comprised mainly of the remaining Japanese aircraft carriers that had virtually no aircraft on them. But there was a reason for them.
The southern force, I can't even pronounce the admiral's name. I tried it 4 times this morning. Nishimura. And the center force under Admiral Kurita were comprised mainly of battleships, heavy cruisers, light cruisers, and destroyers. They were going to come together and converge upon MacArthur's landing forces and the American support ships and annihilate them. That was the plan. What was Admiral Ozawa up there? His purpose was they understood psychology, and they understood Admiral Halsey, who was the commander of the American fast attack forces, the fast battleships and the fast aircraft carriers. They used the Japanese aircraft carriers in the northern force as bait. They made sure that Admiral Halsey's scout planes would discover that force of nearly empty aircraft carriers, and Admiral Halsey, true to nature, he took the bait, and he went running off to go sink the rest of the aircraft carriers. In the meantime, the rest of the Japanese battle forces were converging on Leyte Gulf. And there's an interesting footnote to history that once those forces were sighted, Admiral Nimitz's radio people were sending messages to Admiral Halsey and asked, "Where is Task Force 34? And in the manner of the day, to defeat Japanese code breakers, they would put phrases before and after the main words of intention, but the phrase that came right after, "Where is Task Force 34?" read, "The world wonders." It was unintentional, but Admiral Halsey, I think to his dying day, did not appreciate the irony. So here's the lineup. Admiral Kurita had, on the morning of October 25th, 1944, 4 battleships, including the Yamato, the largest battleship ever constructed. She displaced 68,000 tons, which is very, of course, sailors, we never say a ship weighs anything, they displace. She displaced 68,000 tons. In a moment, I'm going to describe to you the forces that Ted was serving with. That one ship displaced more than the entire force of the American fleet that was facing this task force, this one ship. She sported 18.1-inch naval rifles that could hurl a Ford 25 miles. With the Yamato was the battleships Haruna, Kongo, Nagato, 12